They do have headsets. JC Sibala. I don't play video games either. Were you a gamer growing up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I played like Super Nintendo. Like the last system I ever bought um was a Dreamcast. Remember those?
Yes, that wasn't around for too long.
Yeah, that's why I kind of got out of it. I was just like, man, I don't want to keep dropping money, like, 'cause they're not cheap,
No, dude, they're not.
and then they just put a new one out anyway.
Yeah, that was always my deterrent for getting games like Madden. I'm like, they're just gonna bring a new one out next year. Why the fuck am I gonna buy this one? And it's just this perpetual cycle to where I would never buy it.
Yeah.
They're always putting them shits out. And who has time? I don't have any time anymore to play video games. I talk to guys who spend hours and hours on games, and I mean, if that's your jam, then good for you. And if you're on like Twitch or something, making some
hmm
money doing it, then that's cool too. But fuck, who has time?
I mean, I'd like to have time, but at the same time, it's just like, well, I've got other stuff going on,
Right, right.
you know?
I mean, you're a dad.
Yeah.
You work full time.
Working full time, I'm a dad, and then I do stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. By far one of the best comedians in the city. How long you been doing comedy, dude?
almost 8 years now.
What made you get into it?
It's something I had always wanted to do. I can remember being like 7 years old and wanting to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Um, like I remember, like always wanted to make people laugh. We ended up when we moved to Kansas City. I was born in Oklahoma. We moved there because my grandfather was terminally ill.
Okay.
So we moved up there to be close to my grandparents, and so I was spending a lot of time over at my grandparents' house, and it was always like a real somber mood, obviously,
Yeah.
because you've got an ill grandfather, and that was when Comedy Central came out. It was called the Comedy Channel back then. This was 1988,
Oh shit.
and I was like constantly like watching it, and it was basically just uh, kind of like a constant medley of different like clips of comedians' bits. They did because cable was kind of the Wild West then. It was like
Yeah, yeah.
they were just kind of making it up as they go.
Yeah, nobody was doing like 30-minute specials like
hmm
they do now, or if there were specials, it was the big people, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that stuff would end up like on
like HBO.
yeah, it'd be on HBO, or there'd be like a comedy album, or like Eddie Murphy Raw was actually in theaters.
Yeah.
Like people forget how big Eddie Murphy was in stand up because he only did two
He's
specials.
fucking huge,
But he
dude.
was like the Beatles of comedy.
Yeah.
He was
Comedians today
enormous.
still talk about how good he was.
Yeah.
Is.
A lot of his stuff wouldn't fly today because people sensibilities have changed.
Yeah.
What's considered acceptable to say and all that.
Yeah,
But
man.
so a lot of it wouldn't fly today. But if you can if you can separate some of your pretenses a little bit, and you can just put yourself in the moment that it was being said,
Yeah.
it's pretty brilliant.
Absolutely, dude. People are so fucking sensitive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, they are.
just have a sense of humor. It doesn't have to be so serious. Especially like like you can take the most serious topic and you can still joke about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you necessarily believe that. It just means that I mean you're just fucking around. You're just being silly.
Well, I think like a lot of times people forget like that's how some people work through certain pain and hurt,
Yeah.
right? Is they develop not necessarily a defense mechanism, but it's kind of their way of coping with pains that they've had either growing up or just through their lifetime.
Right.
And uh, yeah, I mean we are definitely in the age of outrage culture,
Yeah.
and everything gets kind of blown out of proportion, which can be really frustrating. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, okay, the way things weren't perfect, right?
True.
Um, I don't necessarily believe that this is the right route to go, but I also think that sometimes it's like a pendulum. So eventually it's going to push too far, and there's going to be enough backlash that brings us back to center, and we'll probably be in a better place at that point.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many people that they just make up facts.
Oh my God, dude.
You're like, what?
People just trying to find reasons to be outraged.
Yeah, and then I mean that's the en vogue thing. I think that's
Yeah.
like it's just like who can be a bigger victim, and you know I think a lot of it is a generational thing as well. Like you know, like there's people that a lot of younger people that they like, oh my God, this was a tragedy. I'm like, you don't even remember 9/11, so you don't know what a tragedy is.
Right. Yeah, like
Like, you don't. It's like, okay, mommy forgot to cut off the crust on your sandwich.
it's
Okay,
not cutting
so
perfect triangles, JC. Like,
yeah,
how the fuck am I supposed to eat this?
and some of that is just, you know, they haven't lived long enough to experience enough of life to be like to make that delineation of like, okay, no, this is actually something to be outraged about. This is you looking to be important.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of social justice warriors just trying to find a cause to latch onto
Hmm.
and then just be right. Everybody wants to be right.
Well, no, I don't think everybody wants to be right. I think everybody wants to have everybody say that they're right. I don't think they're actually concerned about being the person in the right.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
think they just want people to agree with them.
Right. Yeah.
Like I want
Whether
to have
it's
an
true or not.
Yeah, I want to have an opinion, and I don't care if you know it's if it's completely factual or not. It's like if you don't agree with me, then you're the enemy.
Right.
Like it's
Well, what gets me is whenever you'll see it. I mean, just in today's climate, you'll see like people on like on either side, but I think it's specifically with a lot of the social different, like the social issues that are getting pushed by like the far left, where
Mhm.
they completely ignore science and say there's no genders,
Yeah.
or like in Canada where it's illegal to not call people by the proper whatever pronoun that they want to be called. It's fucking, it blows my mind. It's there's science to this, but you're just gonna completely negate all of the facts.
Yeah. I think the far left tends to be the one that's most outspoken about it, but I think there's
At least right now.
yeah, and I think it kind of runs the spectrum on it though too,
Yeah.
because is that me? My bad, dude. Let me turn that up.
Oh my goodness, you're ruining the show.
But like it's funny like when you see like really like right wing uber religious people and like you like there's arguments there like they ignore science as well.
Right.
Like when they start talking about creationism and
You
things
see
like
it on
that.
both sides, yeah.
So it's funny that they both like, well, apparently you don't believe in science. They both say that about each other. It's like, well, yeah, when it fits my agenda. Of course
Right.
I believe it then.
Then yeah, absolutely. And then they'll start calling other people pseudoscientists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it is on both sides, but it's like, sometimes it's just like, man, just let other people live their life. And if it's not affecting you, go on and live your best life. Like, why are you getting involved?
Yeah, it's so simple. People get so outraged, so outraged, and even from just like take the political side, like those groups out of it, fucking vegans or
Yeah.
CrossFitters.
Yeah,
People
man.
get so dogmatic about their shit, and they just want to attack other people.
Yeah, like, and I just don't get that. I'm like, because I mean, I used to be really, really into fitness, right? And
Yeah, man, you're like a sexy model, dude.
once upon a
You're in
time,
gay bars everywhere.
I was also in magazines, man.
Which kind of magazines?
You know, I never got paid for any of those bars using my likeness.
Really?
They just they
think-
find it on the internet
Yeah.
and then they print it up and they put it in some sort of frame or whatever.
Could you do anything about that if you? I mean, is it even worth it? But if
It's
you,
not. It's not worth it. And also, like, what do I care?
Yeah.
It's just like,
Who cares?
yeah.
I saw that
And
picture. I thought that
and
was
and
hilarious, though.
also, I'm not the one that actually owns the copyright to them. Even though it's my likeness,
Yeah.
it's the photographer that took the picture that owns the copyright anyway.
Yeah.
So they could go do something if they really wanted to, but it's kind of it's just kind of like, who cares?
Yeah. It's
I
not
mean,
that big of a
it's
deal.
not like you're gonna buy your dream house off of it. It's like, where's my $20, pal?
They're probably not
Like,
even making any money off of it anyway.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I just don't care about it. But yeah, people are really dogmatic when it comes to their fitness and everything. And like, I always had people coming up and asking me stuff. I'm like, well, here's what works for me, because I don't think it's a one size fits all approach.
Yeah.
And I don't get like, for some people, like, if like like, there's some people that are, like, have started Orange Theory,
Yeah.
and like that's their thing. It's like, you know what, this has been perfect for me. The system makes sense to me and it works for me. I'm like, well, great. If it's working, do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
find a need to be like, well, actually, you should be trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm guilty as the next person of getting like super excited whenever I like something. And
Mhm.
like, dude, you should try this. You should try this. Like, I'm always pushing like Jumbo CBD on everybody. I'm like, dude, just try this bomb. I fucking love it. It makes me feel
Mhm.
great. But whenever people start acting like you're in the wrong because you don't also like what they like,
Yeah.
that's when it gets kind of weird.
Yeah, and like, I just kind of write people off like that.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, okay, well.
Yeah. Does the whole current climate of just people wanting to be outraged, it's like a sport now, just how outraged can
Mhm.
we be? Has that affected how you write in your comedy or anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, when I started, you try to talk about what you know, and for me, a lot of that had to do with growing up biracial,
Yeah.
right? And um, just the different experiences that came with it, not really ever fitting in with a racial group,
Yeah. No,
right?
what's the number one question you get? What are you?
Oh yeah.
I get fuck, dude. I
What
get
are you?
that.
Human. I'm
Yeah.
human, bro.
Yeah. What do you?
Okay, smart ass. Where are you from? Like, Kansas. Like, where were you born? Oklahoma.
It's like, what do you want?
It's like, are you asking about my ethnicity? I'll tell you. I don't have a problem with that. Just use the right terminology.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get offended by it. Um,
I mean, you just kind of get used to it. You kind of
I mean, when you grow up with it,
every
you're just used to
time.
it. And like, when people say, like, the term like microaggressions or whatever, I'm like, like, maybe if I was soft,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't really impact me.
Right.
Like, it's just one of those things. Like, it's not my problem that you're approaching this ignorantly, right?
Right. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's not my problem. That's your problem. I don't think it's a big problem. You just don't know. That's what ignorance is.
Yeah.
Isn't a lack of knowledge. And you can just, now, if somebody deliberately keeps doing it like, in a disrespectful way, now we're completely shifting the paradigm.
Right. Now we're into stupidity. Now we're into
Yeah.
something else for sure. It's not ignorance anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, human beings by nature, I think, are ignorant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can forgive that. I'm like, look, I'm pretty ignorant myself sometimes,
Yeah.
because I didn't know any better or whatever. Like, it took learning and to overcome that ignorance.
Right. I had a wrestling coach growing up that would say, I'm as ignorant as the day is long, which is true because it's just, like you said, it's just not knowing something.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of shit I don't know. And the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. Like, I don't know a whole bunch of shit. Like,
Right.
I know a lot about a few things, but then there's a ton of other shit I don't know.
I mean, that was one thing. Like, when as I was getting older, especially like in my 20s, like, it's not as much now, but I remember, like, consciously thinking I can look back every year over the past year, like, let's say it was like after New Year's, like, wow, I learned like so much more this year, and I thought I had it all figured out going into the year.
Yeah.
And I learned I didn't know shit.
Right.
And then it happens again the next year, and then
Right.
it happens again the next year,
Exactly.
and then it just, after a while, you're just like, no, you're always learning.
Always. You have to. Like, if you're not, then what are you doing?
But I think that just, like, with a lot of this outrage culture and everybody, like, really, like, digging their heels in, a lot of that has to do with youthful exuberance and not knowing that they don't know shit yet.
Right.
I mean, I think every young person goes through that.
100%. I can remember being
And they think they know everything,
everything.
but they don't.
Yeah.
But they don't know that they don't because they haven't been knocked down by life yet.
Right. Life will knock you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember being 18 and just thinking, I'm a grown man. I'm grown. Mom, I'm grown. I'm gonna go fucking out in the world and do. And then 2 years later, I had a kid, and then I quickly realized how grown I wasn't. I had to grow up real fast. Yeah, man. So I had to deal with a lot of that too, like being biracial, like growing up, just always getting that question, like
What's your ethnicity? Like your ethnic mix?
just black and white.
That's what I
So
thought.
yeah, I took that I did the ancestry DNA tests. I want to try the 23andMe one to see if it's like any different, but
I've read that those are not as accurate as advertised.
yeah, I wouldn't.
That's what I've been reading up.
Yeah,
Like,
well, the first results that I got back were just scattered all over the place, and then I guess just as more and more people have done it, I guess they've been able to. They have more data now, so they can kind of make it more accurate to a
no.
degree. So I got new results back in that they sent out, and those were pinned down much, much more. So how it seems pretty right. I don't know. I'm basically just from like England and I think like the Congo for the most part.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting. I just think it's a government ploy to get all of our DNA in the fucking in a
You fell
database.
right for it.
Fell right for it, dude. I'm like, sure, you need it? Take it. Take it.
You know,
Well,
try to clone you.
dude, well, they've caught I think they caught a murderer with that. Like the dude submitted or one of the dude's like family members submitted their DNA and they were able to cross-reference that back to this guy from and he committed some murders some years ago.
That's insane.
Dude, yeah, you're just you're just volunteering your DNA. They're gonna use it.
That's better than getting caught for some tweet from 10 years ago.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we didn't have that stuff when we were growing up.
Yeah, man, for real. Because I mean, there was like I was an I was an ignorant young man. So like dealing with some of the stuff that is like all the social media and everything being out there and permanently on the internet, like that was thank God I didn't have to deal with any of that because it would have been
Yeah.
devastating like coming back like as far as the way it affects your reputation because people don't forgive or let people become redeemed anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's another problem. It's like, okay, what's the shelf life on, what like this thing with Liam Neeson.
What's going on with Liam Neeson?
You haven't heard about this?
No, please clue me in. Dude, I live under a fucking rock, dude. The way I learn about stuff is by talking to people like you.
I think well, it's been a couple weeks now, but he was doing a press junket for some movie that he's doing, and it's about revenge. And like somehow the question ended up spinning into like talking about revenge as an idea, and he was talking about how damaging it can be and destructive, and how it doesn't really solve anything. And he starts talking about like 40 years ago, um, he was out of the country filming, and a really close friend of his ended up getting raped. So when he came back, he was like asking her like, "What did the guy look like? Was he tall? Was he this? What race was he?" And he ended up being black. And I guess he was just so angry and didn't know what to do with those feelings. For like a week, he was like walking around, I think in Dublin, and like wanting a black person to try to start some shit with him.
Yeah.
And in his words, like wanted to kill him. He said like a black guy, and he used quotes, like quotation marks like that, for about a week. And then like he kind of came to his senses and realized like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like this is insane. It's not. And then he started speaking with some of his friends, and he sought help for it. And like it was like one of the, and like that ended up turning into like this huge thing where people were upset like Liam Neeson's racist and this and that. And it was like, well, one, I think a lot of people inadvertently hold a lot of prejudices.
I would agree for sure.
Okay? Um, and sometimes, like, it's more dangerous the people that won't talk about it.
Yeah.
He is putting it out there, and he was trying to make the point of like this is an ugly thing that he was bringing to light the topic of being vengeful and having these kinds of feelings are horrifying,
Yeah.
and we need to work through that kind of stuff, and it just got completely spun into Liam Neeson's racist.
Oh, God, I hate when people do
And
that.
so it's kind of like yeah, those were racist thoughts. I agree, but like, and it's not as if I'm like going like, oh, it was 40 years ago, everybody was doing it, like, but has he changed? Nobody looks at has the person changed? Have they grown? Are they a
Right.
better person now than that person he just described?
Right.
And everybody completely discounts that. Like, and I think it's more important for the people that are changed. Like I applaud somebody like that can admit like that's like he was ashamed of it. Like that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And like just publicly admit something that you're ashamed of
Yeah.
that you've done versus people that never change and they still hold some really ugly views on different members of mankind.
Yeah.
And like I'll take Liam Neeson any day of the week
Yeah.
over anybody else. Like,
Yeah, man. Well, we're all human, right?
mm,
And for some reason, we act like, and we actually we hold politicians to the standard that it's wrong to change your opinion or it's wrong to change your view. But it's like, hey, man, I'm always evolving and always growing.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes you get new information and you change your mind or you change your opinion on something. And in that particular situation with Liam Neeson, it sounds like this was all these years ago. Something horrific happened to his friend. He felt super helpless and angry, and he was just completely acting on emotion and was just tying this emotion to a group of people.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? But then after a week, he came to his senses like, what the fuck is going on, right? He
yeah,
sought help. So it's kind of weird. It's like, why would we hold somebody, why would we try to, I guess, punish somebody for feeling a certain way when it could have easily been anybody feeling that way. And
mm-hmm,
it's not like he holds these values. Like he's not walking around fucking, and I don't know, he's not like a skinhead walking around in his boots, like looking out for black people to go stomp them down or anything like that. It was just like this one situation, and now he's sharing his experience with people. I would imagine so that way he can create like a positive effect from it for
right.
others, right? So it's just really weird that we do that because,
Well, for a lot of people, it's a way to grandstand. Basically,
yeah,
it's like, well, look how virtuous I am. It's
yeah,
like I know that you're a human. I know you're flawed, man.
yeah,
Like I know that
right,
I know that there's ugly parts about you that nobody knows about.
right,
Right? And so, yeah, you can put on this facade because we're in a facade world. Everything is, look how great my life is on Facebook and
yeah,
everything. It's like, well,
yeah, dude.
I know,
And people are
like I know
tribal.
it's not that. And yeah, there's the tribalism thing.
People like to hang out with people that look like them for the most
Hmm.
part, and you see it in, like
Or
people.
share the same opinion, like either politically tribal
Yeah,
or spiritually tribal, or even in fitness.
yeah.
Like we're just kind of wired that
We
way.
like to group together. So in that situation, it sounds like, all right, well, here's his tribe that got attacked by another tribe, which he can only identify through color,
Hmm.
and then now he just gets in, and then the instincts kind of just kick in. You know what I mean? From
Hmm.
just anger and whatnot. So it's not all so black and white. It's kind of complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure is.
yeah, dude. So what was it like growing up in Kansas?
Uh,
I'm sorry, dude. I hate that state. Only because
would you
whenever,
grow up in Missouri?
yeah, man,
Yeah,
I
because
did.
this is an awesome state.
Dude, it's fucking awesome. I grew up in like the backwoods on a dirt road. No, I don't really hate the state. It's just driving through Kansas
Yeah,
to get to Colorado is just so brutal. It's so
well, because you've
brutal.
already had to sit through Missouri. It's like, oh, great, more of the same shit and just longer.
It's flatter. It's way flatter. Flat.
That's true.
It's flatter. But you moved to Kansas City though, right? How old were you?
Uh, it was right before I turned 7,
Right
so
before
I
you
was
turned
6.
7.
But yeah, I grew up in Overland Park, Kansas,
Yeah.
which is in Johnson County, which would be, I think if you look up like the median household incomes, it would be like Chesterfield.
Oh, okay.
So like Clayton, Ladue, all those like they have much higher, like Creve Coeur, Town and Country, much higher median household incomes, but their populations are like 4,000, except Clayton's like 16,000. But then you go out to Chesterfield, and they probably have uh, a median household income of like I want to say like 130 to 140, but I haven't looked it up in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Um, but they've got like around 60,000 people. So that's why Chesterfield seems like it's got so much money
Mm-hmm.
because you've got uh, upper middle class, right, versus lower higher class, I would say.
Yeah.
But you just have a huge volume of people. They've got more than 10 times the population of some of these smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
So take Chesterfield and then multiply that by 11, and then that's Johnson County. That's what I grew up in.
Oh. Multiply that by 11 as far as size.
Yeah, amount of people.
Oh.
Six
Yeah.
like 660,000 or
Yeah.
something like
That's
that.
fucking a lot of people, dude. What school did you go to?
Blue Valley Northwest,
Blue Valley Northwest.
which actually was in the news like about a month ago because of ignorant shit. Uh, um, somebody like on their dance squad, a black girl got a scholarship to Mizzou,
Okay.
and in the opinion of the coach and like one of their uh, other choreographers, uh, she wasn't the most talented. There was other girls that weren't getting scholarships that were more talented than her or more deserving in their opinion.
Yeah.
Granted, like I said, it's just their opinion. Because I don't know anything about dance.
Oh shit.
Um,
It's like when the cheeks go up and down.
so, this girl saw during practice the coach was playing the music like through her iPhone, and they had this girl go change the music or whatever, and she went through her text messages and saw these text messages with this choreographer and saying like the only reason why she got the scholarship is because she was black,
Mm.
right? And so it's like, wow, way to go.
Yeah, you dropped the ball on that one,
Yeah.
guys.
I mean, because it's such a white area.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in all the black kids that grew up there, like Carlton, they want to think that they're not, but they are.
Yeah. Those dude, kids that grow up in that community are dangerous, right? So I started out in Potosi, which is like a very
Yeah.
backwoods area. You familiar?
I'm
Like,
familiar with
there's
Potosi.
not shit going on there. And then I moved to Jeff City, which is not shit going on there either. There's like 50,000 people there, a lot of fields and shit.
Hmm.
But when you grow up in that community, and like we were probably like lower middle class, but if you don't have like intense struggle, like you tend to start looking for trouble and like cause, at least from what I noticed, almost every fucking kid goes through this stage probably between, I don't know, like 13 through 16, where everybody wants to be black, and everybody's buying baggy clothes and shit, and then they want to fucking start trouble, and they just
Yeah.
get into fucking trouble all the time because they want to be cool, because everybody wants to idolize like the hood or what they see in music or different things, and it just
Yeah,
causes
because it's
trouble.
glamorized by pop
Yeah,
culture.
it's not what they know. It's not what they know, so they romanticize it.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, the kids who are really fucking struggling growing up in the hood, they're like, "What are you doing?" Like, I would give anything to be in your situation. But
Yeah.
you see a lot of kids just causing shit.
Yeah. I mean, we never really got in that much trouble or anything growing up, and a lot of my like we got put on diversion for criminal trespassing because we went into the neighborhood pool after hours.
Yeah. Well, that's not
Yeah,
much.
I know. Well, like there's just not a lot of crime or anything going on in Overland Park, so like the cops were always just trying to bust teenagers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we never got in trouble as far as like getting arrested or anything like that, but I can remember just going around and just like starting fights. Just being, I don't know if that was you or not, but I can remember a lot of guys starting fights. I definitely had a
My
few
dad would
fights in
have,
high
if I
school.
was starting fights, my dad would have whooped my ass, and so would my coaches. So, I I had a tough as nails wrestling coach,
Yeah.
and like major disciplinarian type, but he had a huge impact on my life. Um, yeah, like that guy taught me a lot. My wrestling coach in high school.
Yeah.
So my dad was also a disciplinarian, kind of a hard ass when I was growing up, but like he's a great father.
Yeah.
I learned so much from my father.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
but
never got in trouble, but I mean, I definitely went to parties and got in fights. I definitely did that. I can think of a lot of guys who did that. I can just think a lot of guys just fucking maybe some of that was also because we were in a smaller town and there's like less to do and people just start shit. I don't know, but
I was, I never really got into fights.
you're
Uh,
you're a good kid, man.
well, I mean, I was like trying to hook up with girls and be a smartass all the
Yeah.
time. That's all.
Were you
Like,
the class clown?
yeah, to a certain degree. Not so much in high school, but like I mean, I was a decent student, but yeah, I mean, I was a class clown. Like a lot of times, uh, I've got a fairly dry sense of humor, so stuff I would say would like fly under the radar.
Yeah.
So, um, every once in a while, like I remember in college, um, this te one of our teachers like started talking about welfare, and he was trying to prove a point of, um, like what does the typical welfare mother look like, and I don't remember what because it didn't relate to what we were really talking about. Like I don't know why he was going into it, but he, anyway, he was trying to prove the point is that it's actually white women,
Yeah.
right? But like we have all these stereotypes or whatever. That was sort of like one of the points he was making, but it was kind of unrelated to our subject matter. But like I was sitting in the back of the class and I was joking around with somebody in the back, like quietly, about something completely unrelated, and he started laughing really loud because the kid was a dumbass. I, what was Casey's last name? Was it Dwyer? I don't remember. But he was on our football team. He was kind of a numbnuts, and he starts laughing really loud, and just like the whole class just stops, and he's like, "So Casey, would you like to share what's so funny?" I was like, "Oh, it was just something that JC told me." I was like, "What the fuck?"
He just threw you
Are you
under
serious?
the bus.
Like, and the guy's like, "Well, I could use a laugh." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Remember when you were asking about welfare moms and what they look like?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said it was Casey's mom. Like, he was sitting right behind me, and the rest of the class started laughing. And Casey's just like, "Shit." But
That's what he gets, man. He asked for it.
yeah, like, but I usually wasn't disruptive. Like I said, I'm like pretty low key
Yeah.
with my humor. Like with me, you got to be paying attention,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a lot of times like like with my words, I'll cut you, right? It's sneaky, like it just like you just never see it coming.
You just say some shit, just real nonchalant.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And if you say it with enough confidence, like sometimes you'll say something at somebody else's expense, and like if you say it in a really relaxed, like confident way, like it ain't no thing.
Yeah.
They go like, "What did he just try to check me?"
Should I be offended right now?
Yeah,
I don't even know. And then
yeah,
20 minutes later, then the ego gets bruised. It's like,
yeah.
damn, man, I'm pissed now.
Well,
So,
but I'm not like a real in your face, like look at me
yeah.
kind of comedian. So
Yeah, no, you're real chill. I don't think people would know that you're a comedian just if,
yeah, I get that a lot.
yeah, yeah. I always get that because I'm so relaxed because I fought for so long. People
Mhm.
like, I would have never guessed that you could like punch people.
Well, I mean, people like forget that like For some people, that's an outlet. Like I was a lot more obnoxious before I started doing comedy. But like before comedy, I mean, I had a couple fights.
Yeah,
Um,
you wrestled, did jujitsu.
I did jujitsu. I did two MMA fights. Um, all before I started doing comedy.
Yeah.
The I ended up quitting jujitsu because I was racking up too many injuries. Um, and I really, really liked it. Well, I love jujitsu, and I can't wait to get my son into it. But not the way I love comedy. There was
Hmm.
something about when I started comedy, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that like there's a lot of people that don't really understand passion, I feel like. But like when you find your passion, if it's really your passion, you don't have time for things that are your interests.
I 100% understand, dude. I talked to you a little bit before this. I said like I'm done competing in
Mm,
jujitsu. I'm just so over competing because I did it for so long, and since I've started podcasting and since I've started some of these other different things, I want to be do those. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I like to teach jujitsu, but I don't want to put in all the time that it takes to be a good competitor
yeah.
anymore.
I mean, it's not your passion in that
Not at all.
sense. Um, yeah, and I I see too many like, and it drives me nuts sometimes, like because there's a lot of comedians here in St. Louis, and then some of them are take kind of a weekend warrior approach,
Yeah.
and there's a handful of us that are like diehards. Like we go up to as many open mics as possible to work on our craft, and that's why we're getting booked.
Yeah.
But the open mic can suck, man. Like you take a beating.
Yeah.
Like it's emotionally, it is a beating because like a lot of people they're not wired to keep getting back up there when you're just kind of emotionally naked in front of an entire room and nothing's working because you're standing up there. You don't have an instrument. You don't have anybody else with you.
Yeah.
It's just you and a microphone, and you're trying to evoke one of the most powerful human emotions out of people that can't be faked.
Yeah.
Okay, laughter can't. I mean, you could fake laugh, obviously,
Right.
but like really, like getting to them and connecting, that can't be faked. And you're kind of sitting up there naked, like, hey, like me,
Right.
and it's hard when it's not working out to keep going up and keep doing that.
Yeah. And that's inevitable, right? I mean, everybody's gonna bomb.
Everybody bombs.
Yeah.
Everybody bombs. Like there's if somebody tells you hey they haven't bombed, then they're either a liar or they've just never really done it.
Yeah.
It's like it's different when like some people like yeah I tried stand up a couple times. I went up to an open mic over a Funny Bone. Only did it twice, but everybody got really great laughs. I was like yeah, because all your friends came.
Yeah.
I mean if when it's all your friends, of course they're gonna laugh
Right.
because they already get your sense of humor. But like that doesn't mean you can go make a complete group of strangers laugh. It doesn't mean you're good enough for somebody to pay you money to do it.
Yeah.
And um, that's where the challenges really lie in it. And it's like because like I was telling you, like when I finally just sacked up and did comedy, because I'd been wanting to do it forever, and there was just never enough time, never enough time, never enough time. Like working on 3 degrees when I was in school and playing football. And then I started working for DFM, and I was working long, long hours because it was a company that just started. Right, it was in its infancy. I was there at the beginning, so we were putting in long hours, wearing a lot of hats, and then I went back and got my MBA, and then I was doing MMA, and like there was just never any time. And then I was coming up on my 30th birthday, and uh, I was like, shit, I haven't accomplished this goal that I wanted to do. So the year of my 30th birthday, so 2011, I made that a New Year's resolution to do at least two open mics because I knew that one of them would suck. I was like, because I was trying to prepare myself realistically.
Yeah.
Um, and the first time I did open mic, I was all like, I had amped myself up for it, and I bombed horribly. And granted, it was at a bar open mic, which are way harder than doing at a club.
Yeah.
Because people, like, when there's an open mic that's set up at a bar, there's patrons that come in, they're like, what's going on? And like, what's with the guy with the microphone?
Yeah.
Like, they're not there for comedy. At least
Right.
when you go to a comedy club, they came to listen and sit for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So I bombed. Uh, and but I was like, it's weird. You got to have these delusions of grandeur. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I knew it probably wouldn't go all that well, but like now I know what to expect. All right,
Next time will be way better.
I'm gonna be ready next week. I came back the next week and I bombed so much harder, so much harder, and I mean, like emotionally, I was devastated. This was like the thing that I had always like dreamt about doing.
Yeah, that's your dream, man, and you just fell flat on your face. It
Yeah,
probably felt like.
and somebody pulled me to the side after it, and I was like, "Hey, can I make a suggestion?" Because I was like really nervous and jittery while I was up there and
Yeah.
everything, and it didn't even seem like the same person, and especially at the time I was like really really in shape, and I was younger, so like I had more of a baby face and everything, but like it wasn't that many years removed from back when I used to model. So I didn't look the part of all the awkward guys that were there. Um, he's like, drop the awkward act. I was like, that's not an act. That's like me being like uncomfortable and everything. He's like, well, then you gotta fake it. You gotta look like you're confident and everything because all these other guys, it makes sense when they're awkward and they look uncomfortable. It looks like part of their character. It's like it doesn't work for you. It's distracting, and no one's gonna listen to what you have to say. And uh, I was signed up for another open mic later that week because the O'Malley's open mics, that bar was on Mondays, and there was a comedy club called Comedy Etc. 2 that was on Wednesdays. But you had to sign up the week before. Uh, you had to sign up on their email list or whatever, and then they put the list out a week in advance. So I was already on there, and I didn't want to go because I mean I had just bombed so much harder, and I didn't sleep for those 2 days in between. Um, and
Just thinking about like what just happened. Is that?
that, and licking my wounds and being really upset and like humiliated
Yeah,
and
and just hard to
like
sleep.
all these different things and like being like not wanting to go on Wednesday. Like I knew that Wednesday was coming up, so like there was anxiety there. Should I go? Should I not? Should I go? Should I not? Like, like I don't think I can do this anymore and like and but ultimately what I decided was, you know, down the road I might want to do comedy again. I might want to give it another shot. And there's only two comedy clubs here locally. One of them is really difficult to get onto, and then this other, like, so I don't want to burn a bridge with one that already signed me up by them putting me on the list and then me not showing up.
Yeah.
So um, I just sacked up and I took that advice of faking like I was really confident up there and didn't bomb. Wasn't good, but it felt like I was good at the time. And like I remember the ride home. I had a buddy drive us out there, and then we were gonna go out and celebrate afterward. I'm like talking on the phone with my mom. Oh, mom, like I just did it. Like maybe I could do this. Blah, blah, blah.
I'm about to have my own special any day now.
And so then I started doing it more, and I counted how many times that I told jokes on a microphone, whether it was a paid show or whether it was just open mic. But I counted for that first year. And remember what I was saying about like when you really find your passion, you've got time for nothing else.
Right.
I performed 235 times
Oh man.
in my first year of doing comedy.
Now some of those like multiple performances in a night.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't every single night of the week, but it was quite a few, man.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a grind, isn't it? I mean, signing up for open mics and you
hmm
sometimes hit 2 or 3 spots in a night.
If you can, um, it's not always possible, but like I remember when I started, when I first started, there were three places you could get on: O'Malley's and the two clubs. That was it. And then within a few months, because for whatever reason, there was this huge influx of new comedians at the same time that I came on board. Um, a lot of really like hungry, driven individuals that all of a sudden they started creating their own open mics and like setting up these different open mics where you could go every night of the week, and then some of them were monthly, so they could overlap, so you could hit multiple ones in one night. But I remember there was one point where we, little bit less than a year in for me doing it, um, me and a few buddies ended up hitting four open mics in one night.
It's a lot.
Yeah, when it used to be you could only get three in a week.
Yeah.
Like it had just changed a lot. So
Yeah. I love going to comedy shows. It's such a good time. Um, the one thing I always study people.
mm,
Like I love, man. So if I would just not be a pussy, I tell myself like I would love to go do stand up. But
mm,
I'm always like studying comedians and yeah, like stage presence is just so huge. You can almost tell immediately by like how you can just feel like when a comedian like walks up on the stage and like they grab the mic, you can almost tell like what kind of control they'll have of the crowd.
mm-hmm.
It's just so interesting to see. Um, I
There's a
guess,
lot of mechanics to the performance.
yeah, what are they?
I mean, there's things like people tell you timing is everything.
Yeah,
Um, learning to emphasize the right words. Um, so like the inflection of your voice.
yeah,
Some of it is the facial expression that comes with it. Um, like things that people don't think about. Like it's not like you're just up there, like just giving a monologue and
right.
just
Like the
saying,
details really
yep.
matter.
And then, um, things like your body language
Yeah,
is huge.
like you're super relaxed on the
Hmm.
stage. I told you the first time I saw you was like probably almost 6 years ago now. It was at the Funny Bone.
Mm.
I think you were hosting the whole night. Like you, is that so? Is that what it's called, hosting? Like you,
Yeah, hosting or emceeing,
yeah. So
and
you're
then
emceeing, like you tend to open as well. Like you do the first.
yeah. So the typical structure is it's a three-person show at a comedy club. Not always the case. Sometimes they do a two-person show, but the in it's different for every club. But generally, the MC will come up and they'll do like 10 to 15. It's like the previews, like
Yeah,
when you go see a movie. Think
yeah.
of it like that, right?
Okay.
And then you've got a feature act that comes up. So the MC will do like 10, maybe 15 minutes. Feature act will do 20 to 30. The times vary per club.
Yeah.
Okay, but a lot of times it's like 15, 30, and then headliner does 45. But like then you can narrow those first two acts down, and the headliner might do an hour.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what the headliner wants that week. It depends on that club's rules. Um, like in Oklahoma City, the Looney Bin down there, that particular manager, like instead of like they don't give you like an exact amount of time to do on your set. What they do is at this time you have to get off the stage. So it might be the show time is supposed to start at 8, but you got to be off stage by 8:15. But we might not start the show till 8:05. We might not start till 8:07. We might start at 8:02. It's
Mm.
going to be a different duration every time.
Oh wow.
So now you got to get off at at a time versus in a duration.
Does that make it harder?
I thought it was way harder, but it was also great experience.
Yeah.
Like like learning how to cut certain parts of your joke out to like speed it up, because at the time I had a closer that when I was doing it as a full closer, it would take like 3 minutes, but I could also do it in a minute 30, do like an abridged version of it.
Yeah. So do you practice your jokes like saying them out loud to get timing, or
Yeah.
how does that work? I mean, what's your process for writing and creating your jokes?
Um, well, like whenever like someone was just asking me the other day about like how you come up with material, and everybody's got a different process.
Yeah.
For me, funny things happen like all the time.
Life is hilarious
Yeah.
if you just pay attention.
And so, but like every once in a while you can catch it and like, that's something I can make a joke out of. And I'll like, because it usually happens at a not convenient time. So I don't have time to stop and write out a full joke. So
Yeah.
I'll just text myself the general premise.
Yeah.
And I know, like, if I know the right words, I'll remember it later. And I'll go back through, and then I'll actually try to type something out. Like, or occasion, I stopped doing pen and paper, um, which is, I think it's easier to memorize stuff with pen and paper.
Yeah.
But I lose notebooks all the time. So so I started just putting it in like in my Google Docs or whatever. You
Yeah.
know what I
It's
mean?
much more convenient that way.
Into Drive, so then I could access it from my phone or whatever, and um, put like a general draft of the joke together. And then I'll go back through and I'll probably like kind of bullet point different like words that like, okay, I definitely need to say this word. This is the most important word of this sentence. If I can remember this word, I'll remember the whole sentence,
Yeah.
right? Or I might, if I remember this word, I'll remember these 2 or 3 sentences just off of knowing that one, like remembering that to use that one word.
Right. Right.
And then you go out and you flesh it out on the stage. Um, so you go out and you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And for me, like before I'm really comfortable with a joke, sometimes it might be 6 months before I bring it out onto the stage for like a non-open mic show, like for like an actual paid gig. Um, a lot of times I'll cut out all the jokes that are works in progress.
Yeah.
So, um, but I always kind of leave myself a little bit of room too, because if a set is going great, like if everybody's just on board and the crowd's electric and everything, like okay, now I can, like I've earned their trust, so now I'm gonna try something a little bit different. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna test it out a little more with this crowd, cause I also know if it doesn't get as much of a response as I was expecting it to, I've already got other jokes in my back pocket to lean right back into and
Yeah.
get everything back on track.
Yeah. I know some comedians, like some larger comedians, they'll hit the road and they'll hit smaller clubs and
Hmm.
work their material out there before they really let some of the bigger crowds see it. Do you ever do that, like hit smaller little areas or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like particular, like I'm not huge, so
Well,
uh,
well, I
so I
mean,
kind of have to actually.
you're like, well, really, I just do that out of necessity.
Yeah, really. uh, yeah, no. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll go to an open mic that's like a hard. Well, I actually run an open mic every week in Maplewood at
Oh,
the
do you?
Crow's Nest,
Oh, sweet.
and it's a really difficult open mic because I mean it's a bar show, um, and it's a shotgun style bar. So like, uh, on one side of the bar, it's a long like corridor almost, and then the bar runs the length of it. So you get a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
Um, it's a really challenging open mic, and plus, uh, we have these little games that we throw in where comedians can go up and they can pull, like we've got like a giant deck of cards,
Yeah.
like they're like the size of a 8.5 by 11, and you pull a card. Did you ever play the game Circle of Death? Some people call it Kings.
I've never played it, but I'm aware of it.
Okay, so it's a drinking game
Yeah.
where you pull a card and then there's like an assignment attached to that card. Whether it's like, okay, if you pull a 5, you hand out 5 drinks to people, or if you pull 2, 3, or 4, you have to take a drink. Or there's all these different rules.
Yeah.
So we did that idea, but we applied it to comedy rules. So there might be a card where we call it not no microphone. Like we take the microphone away. Why can't it? It's my show. I've been running it for 4 years. We've got like 40 different categories that we use. It's called Is This Thing On? So we've got a card where if you pull, it might be the queen that night. The queen this week is This Thing On? So you have to perform without a microphone for the next minute.
Oh man.
Or it might be you have to do nothing but clean jokes. Or we've got one called Bluish American Princess, where it has to be the darkest joke that you have in your repertoire,
Okay.
right? Because blue humor is dark humor. So
Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, that's another term for it. It's blue humor. So we
Okay.
call it Bluish American Princess.
What day of the week do you do this?
So on Wednesdays, it usually starts around 10:30-ish. To be honest, we always start late, but because we're always there drinking.
Oh, that's funny,
But
man.
yeah, it's Wednesdays at
Said
at
Crow's Nest.
10:30 at Crow's Nest off of Manchester.
It's a lot of late nights in comedy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a late scene. I have a hard time. I'm an early bird.
yeah.
think I'm
I'm a
going-
night owl.
I like wake up probably when people are going to bed in the comedy world.
Sometimes, yeah. Like if it's man, Funny Bone used to have a midnight show on Saturdays. They don't anymore, but those were brutal. Because I mean, like if you're working a week there, so you might have to work Wednesday through Sunday, right? And on so you do one show Wednesday, one show or Thursday, two shows Friday, then you do a 7:30, 10 o'clock, and then a midnight on Saturday.
Man,
And man, when that show rolls around, it's like, oh, do I want to climb this mountain again? Like,
I've already
it can
done
be
two
so
before
rough.
it.
Yeah, and so because it's like you're hitting the reset button.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Is it weird? Or actually, I always wondered, do you ever switch? So I imagine you're telling like the same jokes to each crowd, right?
For
Or
the most part.
yeah, as I say, like, does it ever change between, in the same night? Do you have like different sets for different crowds, or
Sometimes.
yeah, I never wondered. I always wondered how that worked.
Yeah, sometimes, especially if I'm only emceeing, um, I'm limited on the amount of time I get to do up there.
Yeah,
So I might do completely different sets from show to show.
yeah, that makes sense.
But at the same time, if you're working at a club, do the material that got you there. Like that's
Yeah.
what, it's like they did. They didn't book you, and they're not paying you money to see oh, what did you come up with this morning?
Yeah,
They're
dude.
like, no, do that shit that I saw you do.
Yeah, it's like when people go to see like a Metallica concert or something. Like nobody wants to hear the music off your new album, bro.
Right.
Like just play what we came
Right.
here. Is St. Louis a good city for comedy?
Um, yeah, I think it is, but I mean, it depends on what you think is a good comedy scene. I think we got a lot of really talented, really hungry comedians. Ultimately, if you want to take that next step in your career, you're probably gonna have to move away from St. Louis.
Yeah,
But I think what ends up happening is there's a lot of comedians that move out to LA, not from St. Louis, but just in general. I feel like comedians who start in LA, they never really get much stage time because they do because there's open mics everywhere, but
it's a hard city though. I mean,
yeah,
any
but
night of the week you can go like the Comedy Store or somewhere. And
yeah, but it's gonna be somebody famous bumping.
That's what I'm
you.
saying.
Yeah, and what I find is a lot of people in LA start to do comedy that they haven't really developed anything yet. So it's lackluster compared to other cities that you're not gonna get famous in,
Yeah,
right? But they really flesh out the time and get something real.
yeah,
And then they also, because they're smaller cities, they as they start to get better, they develop more time. In LA, Like the most you're gonna get maybe 10 minutes,
Yeah, I would figure it'd be hard in LA because
and nobody can do more than 10 minutes out
yeah,
there.
if you're just trying to come up, it's like, well, why would I come see you when
Mm.
I can just go here and like Bill Burr's on and
Yeah,
Anthony Jeselnik or just you pick your fucking you
right.
throw a name out like they're all performing there.
But all those people that you're talking about, they didn't get their start in LA.
Right,
They moved to LA after they got good.
right.
So I think I don't know who said this, but somebody was like, get your chops somewhere outside of the big cities,
Right.
right? Like get good, um, then move to New York to get great, then move to LA to get famous.
Hmm. I can dig that. Is Chicago still? I've always thought.
Chicago's really big on improv.
Okay.
Like that's their big thing, improv and sketch. There's some really good comedians coming out of Chicago too, but there's good comedians coming out of every city.
Yeah. You find
So,
funny people everywhere.
um, so I mean, they've got a really big alt scene too, I believe.
What's that?
Um, well, there's like club comedy, and then there's like alt comedy, and then there's like urban comedy. Those are kind of the three main styles.
Okay.
But like alt comedy would be kind of your non-traditional approaches. They do a lot of I mean, I can't even pinpoint it because they're kind of all over the place, but it's not they're people that aren't as mainstream. And a
Yeah.
lot of times you'll see them like setting up shop, and like there's a big alt scene here in St. Louis. Um where it's less mainstream jokey joke stuff and more seemingly stream of consciousness, or like they might have a lot of existentialist jokes or whatever stuff that you can't really pin down.
Yeah.
Janine Garofalo she was like an alt comic, or Zach Galifianakis or Patton Oswalt,
Oh,
where they
okay.
weren't like your traditional club style setup joke
Yeah.
type comedians. Um, so I guess that would be the types of, almost like if you wanted to stereotype it, like in a coffee shop
Yeah.
like kind of well, you most of your, like you were talking about SJWs, that like most of them are going to be in that type of scene. Um, not I mean not all of them. I'm just
Yeah.
You just don't see those ones in the club
Right.
as much. And then there's club comedians that typically tackle like more mainstream stuff, um, and hopefully not be hack while they're at it. Like,
Yeah.
and then I mean, urban comedy is its own type of animal.
What's that?
Like like Laugh Lounge,
Okay.
like uh, they call it urban comedy black rooms. Like
Ooh.
it's yeah, it's just black rooms, and
Okay.
it's culturally it's a different style.
Yeah, it is.
It just really is.
It
It's a
really
different style.
is.
Like people, they find different things funny. We
Yeah.
we have our differences.
Absolutely.
There's some things that are universal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like even just like the approach to it, like if you watch a typical urban show, usually locally you're gonna see a guy go out. They're always gonna have a DJ, which alt shows should have a DJ, but they don't. Okay, so there's walk-up music,
Yeah.
and then they dance for for sometimes what seems like 2 minutes. I'm like, when are we gonna get to the
Like,
jokes,
what are we doing,
man?
guys? What are we doing?
A lot more crowd work. You see a lot more crowd work in urban comedy. Um, Usually you'll like a lot more profanity, but not in the same way. Like there's profanity like in like club comedy or alt comedy, but usually they're getting like graphic and kind of gross with their profanity, I would say.
Okay.
Whereas it's a lot more casual use of it's like fucking, you know what I mean, motherfucker. You like it's
Yeah. That's how I speak.
right. So it's like at a club you got to be a lot more polished. Like
Yeah.
you don't get as much work when you curse a lot.
Yeah.
Um, like you can do it in like an alt room, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna go all that well.
Is that just because it's just not as I guess palatable for the general pop hearing all the cursing? So more clubs just kind of prefer you not to cuss a lot. Is that what that is, or
Yeah, and then like it might be like because like a comedy club is gonna get older folks also.
yeah,
So you gotta like make it where like it's something that's not off-putting to them.
yeah,
And then you might have a comedian like I was the feature for John Lovitz when he came in town, and in the writer in his contract is the feature. That was a two-man show, so not only did I had to take take the crowd from cold to hot, because you walk out there and there's like no lead. You're
it's just you.
Yeah. So like you got to like take all these people that were in the middle of conversations
Yeah.
and just start talking.
All
But
right, funny man, make me laugh.
yeah. But instead you do like because you're doing it's a two-person show. Now instead of only doing 10 to 15 up top and then bringing somebody up, now you're doing 25 to 30
Yeah,
and then you're bringing up the headliner right after.
yeah.
Um
Joe Rogan does his shows like that.
he does two-man shows.
Yeah, he usually brings somebody open for him. Usually somebody who can like headline. Like when he came to St. Louis, he had
Yeah, when you're doing like a bit, yeah,
yeah,
cuz you want the crowd already warm
yeah,
and he's going to bring somebody that makes sense. He's going to bring somebody that has a lot of experience
yeah,
that is going to be able to open up a crowd like that
yeah,
because he wants a pro in front of him to set him up.
yeah.
Um, I was a feature for Brendan Schaub when he was
Yeah,
in
no,
town.
man. I wanted to ask you about that. That's
Yeah.
probably you've met I imagine quite a few people in this scene. I mean, anybody who comes to St. Louis, you're probably at the top of the list to feature or host or
No, I'd say I'm pretty middle of the pack actually.
I mean, I can
Yeah.
think of I mean, there's quite a few comedians in the city that kind of come to mind, but like in my mind, I think of like you and like Rafe Williams
Yeah.
and what's Rafe's girlfriend's name? Tina.
Tina's
She's
hilarious.
hilarious. I've seen her a few different times. I went and saw Shane Moss
Oh
when
yeah.
he was in town. Yeah, and it was so cool because nobody was fucking there because I guess nobody knew who he was or something.
Right.
So
Right, right.
yeah, and she opened up for him, and yeah, she's funny, man.
Tina's really funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got Bobby, you got Kenny Kines, Chris Sear, trying to think.
there's not a ton.
Scott James. Um, I mean, and then there's guys that are kind of like have been doing it longer than us. Um, that still get like quite a bit of feature work, and then sometimes headline like Sean O'Brien, Steve Poggi. I haven't seen him perform in a little while, but Steve's really funny. Rob Durham. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, there's more than you think.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't know them all.
And
I'm
like
not
I'm,
insane.
I know that I'm leaving some people out here. Like,
Yeah,
but and we've also had some really funny people move away, like Reggie Edwards, like funny dude. He moved to New York. Um, Vincent Bryant moved to Chicago. Andrew Frank, that dude's a monster.
I don't think I know him.
Really, really intelligent comedy. Like sometimes people think it's pretentious though, but like I personally don't think so. But like I think that's what some of the jealous comedians have said about him.
Oh yeah, is there a
Like,
lot of jealousy going on in the scene,
uh,
or
there's just pettiness.
yeah,
Like I mean, everybody does kind of run on their own cliques, but especially when you consider like kind of in general people that do stand-up comedy. And not everybody. It's just this is a sweeping generalization, but a lot of them have some issues with their own security anyway. That's like how they ended up in stand-up
yeah,
comedy. That's like sort of how they're working it out. So I mean, there tends to be a lot of pettiness. I don't know as much about jealousy, but Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, we all try to support each other at the same
Yeah.
time. Like it's kind of, if it's good, if something good happens to this person here in St. Louis, that makes the whole scene look good.
It really does.
So at the end of the day, it's like just reminding of that.
Yeah.
But
Were there any like big acts that came to town that you really enjoyed working with more than others, or who are some of the people that I guess have been like a real positive impact on you?
um, no, I was probably about a little less than I was less than a year in. It's probably about 8 months in. So this was 2012. I opened for Orlando Jones from Drumline,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and it was really refreshing to see how much he appreciated all his fans, because he sold out every single show that week, and um, he stuck around after every show and took pictures with every person. Didn't charge them,
Oh wow.
right? Because you see that now.
Yeah, dude,
Like,
people.
hey, for $20 you can take a picture with me in front of this thing,
Yeah.
and like what, like he took pictures of on his camera with them
Oh,
and
that's
was
cool.
like he would post it on his website or whatever, and like it was cool to see somebody that really enjoyed their moment and didn't take it for granted,
Yeah.
enjoyed their fan base and showed his appreciation for them. Um, but like a lot of times somebody that's already famous gets into comedy and then they start headlining way sooner than everybody else because they know they're going to get booked because people recognize the name and a lot of people are going to show up.
Yeah.
He was actually funny, which was nice.
Yeah. Which is because his movies suck.
Well, like his stand up was funny.
Yeah.
And he brought a feature with him who was a monster. It's Alex Scott. That dude is so funny. Like um, he was really great. I worked with a guy named with Kevin Bozeman. You familiar with him?
Mm-mm.
He you gotta look him up. He's really
I will.
funny.
I will.
um, I forgot where he came in on Last Comic Standing, but he was in the first few seasons of Last Comic Standing and stuff. And he's based out of Chicago.
Okay.
Um, I worked with him on the road, and that was an amazing experience working with him. He because I asked him, I was like, hey, I know this might seem weird, and like I'm just a new guy. Uh, would you mind watching a couple of my sets and giving me like some tips? He's like, of course, man. And then so we had to share a condo together, and with the feature also. But we were chilling at the condo watching basketball. He's like, hey, so did you wanna go over that stuff now? I was like, yeah, sure. And he pulls out notes, and I was like, that's somebody that like takes the craft seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, his skills are insane. Like he gives great performances, but he's also a great writer.
Yeah.
Like some people like really lean on their performance skills, like Dane Cook, right? And then some people are flat out writers.
Yeah.
Um,
Like Ian Edwards.
yeah, or somebody who I think is a brilliant comedian is what the what's her name? She did the Maria Bamford. Now, she found a way to make her weird stage presence work for her. It's like this really awkward, like uncomfortable thing,
Yeah.
but her writing is brilliant. And like she found a way to like make the performance work to get the writing across.
Yeah.
Um, so there's some people that are just both. Like Chappelle can do the moves because he's a pro. But like phenomenal writer.
Oh yeah.
He's hands down my favorite comedian living today.
Yeah, he's good. He's real. Did you see that Neil Brennan stand-up special that he did on Netflix, the three mics, where it's he would go back between three mics. Like one was just like one-liners, and then the other one was like if he was actually
No,
just doing stand-up, and then the one was I think just like him just being like open and candid, and like actually just like speaking to the audience.
no, I didn't watch it.
It was such. It's probably about a year old now, but it's on Netflix. It was fucking brilliant. I thought
Hmm.
just so interesting.
Is he still friends with Chappelle?
Yeah, they're best friends.
Well, I know they were, but I thought there was a falling out during the period of
Oh,
like over the Chappelle show kind of thing.
oh, that I don't know. That I do not know.
I mean, but he basically created it with him.
Yeah, they wrote it together. I mean, they're like, I'm pretty sure they're still really good friends. They're like some of the oldest friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got mad respect for Chappelle.
He is such an interesting guy, man. He'll just show up
So
anywhere.
cerebral.
Yeah, man.
He he's got some of the smartest comedy that doesn't seem smart. I like comedy that flies at two altitudes, like
Yeah.
mentally,
Mm-hmm.
like where it can be very lowbrow and highbrow simultaneously.
Yeah.
And he can do that. Carlin was great at that.
Oh, Carlin's a fucking beast.
So, but
He would make you think. He'd really educate you
hmm
during his comedy.
no, I really really love Carlin.
And he put out a new special every year.
Yeah, I know. That was nuts. He's got like 30 specials.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Um, and then I liked how like real Pryor would get. Like those are my top three. Like my Mount Rushmore. I don't know who I'd pick for my fourth, but it would be Pryor, Carlin, Chappelle, and then I don't know who I'd put. Oh, Russell Peters. I'd probably put Russell Peters on
He is
there.
good. I'm so mad at myself I didn't go see Russell Peters when he came to Helium because that's such an intimate room and I mean how often can you see a guy like that
Yeah,
in that kind of setting? I mean he's selling out all over the world in huge stadiums.
yeah. Dude is dude is legit for real.
Yeah.
I really wanted to work with him. The booker had booked me to be his feature, and then he ended up bringing his own feature. So
Mm.
so sometimes it doesn't work out. Same
Yeah.
thing happened with Whitney Cummings.
Oh yeah.
They had booked me to feature, and then like 30 minutes later, they got an email. Hey, the manager just said that she's got somebody she's bringing on.
Oh, dude, you want to talk about it's a bummer. Probably heart just sinks in that
I was
moment.
like, damn, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, the big one though was that I really wanted to do was Russell Peters when he was at Helium.
Yeah.
So
Dude, that would have been a good show to be in for sure.
yeah,
But you did Brendan Schaub.
Brendan Schaub was cool.
Yeah. He's a funny ass dude.
Yeah, he is funny. He's kind of an example of somebody who was famous before they started comedy and
Yeah.
probably moved up the ranks faster than they really should have. But he seems to. He's got a good head on his shoulders about it. Like you can tell that he's got comedy mentors that keep him in check.
Yeah. I mean, he's around some
Like
of the
Rogan
best.
and Callan and like
Yeah.
Joey Diaz.
Joey Diaz. You
Like,
know, man, Joey Diaz came and I might people might not like that, but I didn't think he was that funny. I mean, I laughed a lot, but it's not the best stand up I've ever seen by any stretch of the imagination, to be honest.
yeah, I mean,
He had some good stories.
like some people, that's sort of their thing. Like, I mean, comedy's subjective.
It really is.
So I mean, just because it didn't really like hit home with you, I mean, you might have still been entertained by
I
it.
was. I'm not saying he's not funny. Maybe I just had higher expectations.
That's probably part of it.
Expectations will fuck up everything.
That's probably part of it.
I try to go into those shows and just be an open slate
Mm,
and not expect anything, and I'm usually pleasantly surprised.
yeah,
But that one I just had and it was I mean, he sold out. I mean, it was so crowded in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
The another guy I really liked working with was and he was just here recently, but I didn't go see him because I was busy. Michael Costa. He was just fun to work with. He's on Daily Show.
Okay.
I think like whenever Trevor Noah's sick, I think he fills in as the host now.
Okay.
But he He's pretty funny. I worked with him in Kansas City. Different sense of humor. Like, I don't know how to, I can't even describe it. Like, I can't even remember most of the jokes now, but like they were, he was doing this thing. He did this weird thing where he's like, "Oh, we got some hot ladies in the room," and he'd go look at it. It's like, "Oh, like she looks out like, yeah, yeah, yeah." And it just seemed really weird. And then he kept doing it, and it was like, like on Family Guy where they'll take a joke and like really run it past where it, like to a point stops being funny.
Yeah, like you should have stopped here, but they kept going to here.
Yeah. So it gets to a point where it's not funny. And then they keep going and it gets funny again.
It's like, how does that work?
Yeah. Like when he's like,
Yeah. They... Lois.
Like he just keeps making it work. Like it's almost like what he did with that thing. I was just like, it just seemed so weird, but then you have no idea what made him likable, but it worked.
Yeah, sometimes comedians, they'll just stick with something long enough until people just start laughing, I've noticed. And it's just like, you just work past that awkwardness for a second, and then it just gets funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes there is just awkwardness in the crowd, and like I'm one of those people that will sometimes acknowledge it.
I acknowledge awkwardness in everyday all the time, because I'm awkward as fuck. I don't know how to shake people's hands. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do we shake hands? Do we dap? Do I knuckle fist? This is bringing in for a fucking hug, dude. Like, I don't know what to do right now.
I don't know if my mom's side of the family or my dad's side of the family is trying to come through on this one.
I just don't know, man. What are we, business professional, or are we fucking, we broing it up? I don't know.
Dap up.
Yeah, man.
That's funny.
So, well, dude, we've been going for a little bit. I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate you doing this.
Dude, thanks for having me on.
Let's floor is yours. Plug any socials, anything coming up, whatever you'd like to tell the folks about, point them to.
When are you getting ready to? So when do you think it's gonna go up?
So this one is episode 50. I think 54.
Okay.
50. This will be out. Shit, hold on. I did 50, 51, 52.
Like 2 weeks?
Like 2 weeks. This is 53, I think. So this will probably be out either not this upcoming Thursday, but the week after, or the following Monday. So
Okay.
like 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, if it's the following Thursday, I'm gonna be at Helium for their Dirty Show. That's Thursday the 28th.
Okay.
And then on March 2nd, I'm going to be at, which is a Saturday, I'm going to be out in Wood River, Illinois. I'm going to be headlining that show.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing like an hour. And that's at Madison's Tea Room and Banquet Hall.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that one should be fun. And I've got a really funny comedian coming with me. Her name's Angela Smith. She's really funny. So, I want to call her an up-and-comer, but, like, she's been doing it for a little while now, so she's, like, past that phase. Like, she's legit now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think I had another one in late March, but I'd have to pull up the calendar for that one, so.
Okay.
But, yeah, all my social is just JC Sibala, so Sibala.
Yeah, and I'll put this in the show notes so people can easily get a hold of you and follow you. And
yeah, I don't do a whole lot on Twitter, and my Instagram is basically pictures of my son. Like, I might post stuff from shows, but, like, I don't, like, tweet out a lot of jokes or anything, but, like, I make a lot of memes.
Yeah.
Like, because I had a background in graphics,
mm-hmm.
so a lot of times I'll just make them on my own.
Yeah.
Some people think I stole them sometimes. Like, no.
You ever think about just, like, using that platform to just drive more, just, like, more people towards your comedy?
Yeah, but, I also have a day job.
Yeah.
So that takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then also the, like, if your customers are going on there, like for my day job customers are like, all this guy does is dick around on the internet all day.
It's like, what is he doing?
So, I mean, I don't get overly involved on social, um, because I also think there's kind of a backlash to that as well. Like, there's a couple of comedians on our scene that like they inundate you. It's just like verbal diarrhea, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna be doing this show," and there's just a fakeness about it. They're like, "Oh, I'm going on tour." I'm like, "You're not going on tour. You're not getting paid for any of those shows you're doing."
Yes.
It's like you're crashing on couches, doing free shows, or doing trying to get yeah, don't get me on a soapbox on that. But like some
Yeah.
people like everything's facade. They put on this facade of like they're a pro comedian
Dude,
now.
yeah, I have a hard issue with
Um,
that, right? Because people, they just make everything sound better than it really is. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I mean everybody really does that.
We,
Or there are a few people that make things sound worse than they are.
yeah,
I mean everything is like so dramatic and everything. I'm like just be a real person.
yeah,
So it's just which I used to be like super into social media and everything when it was coming. Like, I mean, the MySpace days. I'm 37 now, so.
Oh, good old MySpace.
But I mean, like I used to be really into it, and now it's something I stay involved with it. I've got to run the company I work for's Facebook page now, but um, it's also not something that I overly obsess about as much now.
Yeah.
I say that, but then I annoy my girlfriend. like just crossed 150 likes in 2 hours. Like I'm trending so hard, babe. It's like shut up.
Hey, we're going big. We're going big.
Yeah.
You, oh, that's funny, dude.
But,
All right, folks. Until next time.
all right, cool. Thanks,
All right,
man.
buddy. Thanks.